if you're on Slack, unfortunately my phone is in my bag, so you can't tag me throughout the talk. Possibly I should be, but appreciate everybody showing up here. This is really cool, and it's a topic that I'm really into and very passionate about. There's a lot of cliches in our industry that I think we shouldn't have, and service is something that I think we can do a better job at. Before we get started, a couple of quick housekeeping. Just like the flight attendant said on the flight here, if you're not interested in seeing this talk, now's your chance to leave. Only kidding. If it turns out that this isn't the right talk, certainly feel free to just switch. We don't care. Take notes if it's something that helps you recall things more easily, but don't worry. Right now, my talk's already online on my GitHub, which I'll feature later on at the end of the talk. Everything's on there with my notes. The conference will also be posting my slides as well, along with the video. So a lot of folks probably already know who I am, but my name's Adam. I'm the IT operations leader for Upserve, which is a tech startup in Providence, Rhode Island. So I handle pretty much all the internal IT there, including help desk, computers, networks, Wi-Fi, phones, audio, visual. Everything goes under my belt. People ask how many other people do it with me. I'm the only person that does it full time, but I do have other people there, like the office manager and my manager, who have a good understanding of what's going on. Outside of work, I'm on blog, Twitter, LinkedIn. Two projects which I really like are the macadmins.org Slack team. Is there anybody who's not on that yet? Cool. All right, cool. This is good. So that's just awesome for chat. There was yesterday we passed 6,000 admins, which is really cool. The IRC channel before averaged about 400 to 500. So people always ask about the activity, because once you're on Slack, you can't leave. We have probably between 400 and 600 active, on average, active people talking, and about 1,000 to 1,200 people reading on average week to week. So it's still pretty good, and it's quite the group of people. It's really cool. I also help manage the macadmins.org podcast, which right now is, I believe, episode 7, and that's also online. And I have not only one emoji, I actually have 2. So I come from Providence, Rhode Island, which is a smaller city, but it's really active. The cost of living there is very normal, and my drive into work is about a half hour, so it's pretty good. We nickname it a Silicon Plaza. So where I work is Upserve, which is a software as a service company. We make we have an online dashboard, which is pretty much restaurant assistant. We sell it exclusively to restaurants. We recently acquired, as you're able to see on the shirt, we recently acquired breadcrumb point of sale from this company called Groupon, who has offices in San Francisco and Chicago. We acquired that portion of the company from them, so I very quickly had to set up new offices in both San Francisco and New York. So we have about 140 people total, primarily in Providence. So it's a fast-paced environment, but it's an environment that's always interested in doing things better and improving. So it's a good area to be building an IT team. So of course, the reason that we're here is because of, so the reason we are here is because of the service that we give to those people. And we're actually not just going to be improving the service that we give. We're going to be improving 3 things. We're going to be improving your free time and your time to do things like a documentation, upgrading of critical systems, going on vacation. We are going to improve time for our coworkers, but we're also going to make management really happy, because they're going to have real metrics that show what you do and how well you do it. And in other cases, when they do have to choose how to improve something or how to go about changing something, you're able to show them in black and white. So I did do a survey that was sent out last night. Unfortunately, I was just looking, there was about 6 more results, and I was trying to quickly count. I wasn't able to update it. But I asked people whether they already had a service desk, and obviously yes or no, but I also included the question sort of, which is really interesting because I think I got the result which I was looking for, which is that people feel that they have a service desk, but they don't feel like they have an effective service desk. And these were a couple of the things that people wanted to improve: organization, efficiency, teamwork, just better management in general. So to take a quick step back, because there were a couple of people who don't have a service desk, we always want to say why we're doing something. The problem is email, of course, is crazy. There's meetings, emails from vendors, emails from the office about just stuff that's going on in the office, and then of course the last one, the most important, is help requests. You can't manage the help requests the way that you manage email. So email is not an effective way to manage back and forth talk with somebody, but there's also no way to get information out of who's asking for help, what are they asking for help about, all of those things. And like I always tell people, when I tell them to email the service desk rather than me personally, I would say the service desk is answered by 4 people. If you email me, it's only me. And so you need a better way to track requests, and you need a better way to actually track metrics. Not even a better way, you need a way to track metrics. One thing that is going to make the service desk more effective is if you do take a step back and don't just put everything into one bucket called email that came in this week. You actually have different types of things that do come in. Now, incidents and service requests are an important thing to separate, but there isn't a way to break it up. Incidents are normally, the way that I say it is that incidents is when you have something that doesn't work. A service request is when somebody wants something. But there is a gray area there. Sometimes they're emailing something, they're contacting you for something that seems like a service request, but it's actually an incident because it's something that they were supposed to have based off of the team they work on, or a certain job that they do. It wasn't supposed to be something that they went to you and asked for. So basically, somebody made a mistake during that person's onboarding, that counts as an incident. Questions I put on there because there are things that you can put into a knowledge base, or you can put into a different area so that you don't have to have all one-on-one questions to get that piece of information. We'll talk later on about the knowledge base. And the last one is tasks, which I'll get an email saying that somebody is no longer working with us and their last day is on Friday. That isn't really an incident ticket because, of course, an incident ticket has to be solved in a certain amount of time. That's more of a task. Like, this is something that should be done at this time. And of course, our metrics, these are all things which are going to make it easier for you to plan where to improve, where to buy training, where to buy solutions that offer people a better experience. Noisy trends or noisy departments. And the last one, which I think is really important, time, showing people what you're doing, and also your SLA. Is there anybody here that is already running a service desk and has an SLA, either private or public? An SLA that all people know about, and an SLA that is an internal goal? Cool. If you don't have an SLA, I'm still using my one that I came up with about a year ago that sounded good enough. You get your first email back, or your first contact after you put in a ticket is less than 4 hours, and the ticket's totally resolved in 16 business hours, because if you say 48 hours and it lands on a Saturday, that doesn't make any sense. But 16 business hours to total completion. And that's probably like a good enough goal to choose if you're just starting out, because how do you choose your SLA? Is it like half hour? That's kind of ridiculous, but like 8 hours, like even for non-urgent tickets, 8 hours is a long time. So 4 hours or 4 hours to first contact, 48 hours to total resolutions. All good enough for now. If you're totally crushing that SLA every time, think about dialing it back. But the SLA is a way for you to be accountable, but also be transparent and have something that's agreed upon between you, the coworkers, management. So to do all of these things, of course, you need a service desk. The 3 areas of the service desk, which we're going to start with, ranked in order of what's most important: ticketing, knowledge base, and metrics / reporting. To do a quick overview of the 3, the ticket email comes in, whether it's a web form or a walk-in. A tech's job is to read that, triage it, which is separate from solving the ticket, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And the idea is that you're doing all of that in some sort of web dashboard. Hopefully you're just not still using a desktop-based option. Knowledge base, of course, all of their information is available online. Sometimes you're able to go really far with that and turn it into training modules, videos, all of that good stuff. And now something that's also pretty new, and it's not something that's built into the service desk, but the idea of self-service, whether you're doing self-service from Casper or managed, I don't even know what MSC stands for in Monkey, but managed software center, cool. In Monkey is the same idea as well. And then the final one, that's where you're basically able to either monitor what's going on live or to show your manager later on what's going on. A really quick overview. This isn't anything official. It's not from Gartner or anything like that. But this is just a quick overview of some options if you are shopping for one. Cloud-based services are on the left. I would strongly recommend the fact that you're in the middle of a crazy, hectic environment right now. You don't have ticketing set up. I wouldn't go and set up something in-house unless you have a really good reason to do so. I never say one's better. Like, it's never a black and white question, but in terms of doing it in-house, just be careful. I did toss some emoji on there. I'm actually migrating from FreshService to Zendesk, but if you're doing something simple, I would definitely check out both. Desk.com, I just didn't find that to be very good. School Dude is great when you're the admin. Everything's super set because you make the person click through like 5 pages of forms. And School Dude sells to schools, and it's just a lot of forms, and it's very just old looking. So I'm not one to publicly say, but except for this, I'm willing to say that there's some services that I'm just not a fan of, and if they want to contact me, I'll talk about it with them for a half hour. So first step, of course, is to get all your email questions into the service desk. There's actually a couple different steps, and all of them are pretty important individually. First thing you want to do, of course, is get it, but that's also not just email. It can be phone, walk-up, chat, SMS, Twitter. I mean, there's probably all different things that are going on in your environment. When you are shopping for a service desk, they, for some reason, call these channels. So if you see a service, supports multiple channels or whatever, that's what they're talking about. When the ticket does come in, there's a couple different statuses for the ticket, which are really important later on when you do start doing dashboards and things like that. New means it's not assigned, nobody's read it. Open means that it's assigned to somebody and it's being worked. During all these stages, except for awaiting reply, the SLA is running down on it, so the idea is to jump on it and answer it. Once a ticket goes from new to open and the first message goes back to the person who opened the ticket, it's no longer, it's matched the SLA for the first contact, the 4-hour SLA. awaiting reply is when you've sent a comment, but now it's up to them to email you back. You don't automatically set every ticket to awaiting a reply. Sometimes I'll have a ticket in the open stage. I shoot them a message saying, I'm gonna work on this, but I'm still working on it, and it's open. Sometimes, depending on your organization, you might have another category that I like to call waiting, and it's neither one of you are waiting on each other, but you're waiting on a vendor or you're waiting for something to be delivered. That does usually, I will use waiting to pause the SLA because it isn't something in our hands, but I don't always do that. If we have an outage related to one of our vendors, I leave that open and I push on that vendor to contact me. And then finally, the tickets are resolved, and we'll talk a little bit later on about resolved versus closed. One important step before you start working on the ticket, and this is really important if you have a tier 1 environment, or it's even important if you're and you have 12 tickets all of a sudden. Triage is exactly what it sounds like at the hospital. It's taking all the incoming tickets, ranking them, categorizing them, assigning them to people to work, and kind of having them go on their way. So tier 1 could sit there and just triage tickets. If they need to, they'll be the one that contacts the person that opened up the ticket for more information. What they shouldn't be doing is contacting that person for more info when it is a ticket to be assigned to tier 2, because then it's a waste. It's just like 3 people having a conversation when there's no reason to. And then there's a solving, which all you have to do is assess what they're asking, give them an answer, solve the ticket, and you're done. It's perfect. Of course it's not. There's information that doesn't quite make sense. There's a question that they're asking, but there's the core problem they're really asking. A good example of that I like to bring up when I do interviews is, my computer keeps on saying its startup disk is full. What should I do? I don't know what to do. Obviously, delete files. But all that does is it creates a second ticket that says, someone in IT told me I needed to delete stuff. What should I delete? That was the real ask. So you have somebody in your service desk who takes every ticket and turns it into 2 tickets. What they're really asking, what they're doing is telling you my computer's running out of space. What they're really asking is, how do I find out what's taking up the most space? Is there something that's not working, or is it just because I downloaded Game of Thrones season 1 through season 6 so that I could watch the big fight episodes? So if I do have to upgrade my storage, because suddenly the marketing is doing video now and I just have to do video, how do I go about having that approved? Lastly, which is really interesting, and I always take every ticket, every question, and kind of turn it around on myself. Why am I telling you I'm full? Isn't that this really expensive thing we bought for all of our Macs that runs inventory and does all this stuff? But yeah, going back to what you do when you solve, you are given the answer, setting it as awaiting reply, and the system, if you want to, will automatically nudge them, because just like emails for me, the email comes in, but it's bad timing, so I don't read it. And then if the person doesn't respond, if they're all set, then it just automatically closes. If they do email you back, and it emails you and says it's a new comment has come in. The golden rule of solving tickets is that you don't solve the ticket. And this drives me nuts as a person requesting things. There's 2 different ways to answer me when I ask for something. Either I think you're all set, so see you later, or let me know if you have any questions. I don't understand why there's this really annoying fascination with a first reply resolution, basically saying you emailed them back and that was it. Why is that so important? I don't care if a ticket is set to awaiting reply. The system takes care of that. I don't have to look at those tickets in my inbox. I don't have to close those tickets at all. It doesn't affect the SLA. It's really, really frustrating because I have two vendors who I contact a lot, and they both do it. So much so that I'll be wrapping up the phone conversation with the person, and I'll tell them if it doesn't happen in 6 hours, I'll let you know and close the ticket. And before I put my phone down, I've got an email asking me to, saying, ticket closed, I'll fill out a survey. So of course, I click on the survey. And, but basically, there's no way to tell if the ticket is resolved without asking them. And even if it is really, really obvious, like, I need a mouse, you brought a mouse to them, it's very black and white. Just set it to awaiting reply. It's not in your view or anything like that. And then there's two things which are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and a closed ticket stays closed. Closed is an archival state for the ticket to go into, so you shouldn't be closing tickets if there's a possibility the person is going to email back after a couple of days and be like, oh, actually, sorry, I didn't get back to you. Closed is just a state so that you're able to look at your tickets over time. If you are somebody who runs a managed in MSP, or you're a very large organization and you actually charge other departments for service, your manager is going to use that as well to say that ticket is totally, totally done, and bill them now for the service. A lot of the options out there for service desks have all these websites you're able to do, and you're able to make all these forms, and then it automatically categorizes the ticket for you. Just keep it simple at the beginning. You don't want something that's a big hassle to set up, and your people also need something that's very simple to do. Oh, I'm still writing email, I'm just emailing a different address. Categorize your tickets using categories that we talked about earlier: incidents versus service requests. What will happen is that after 12 months, you go and look and you're like, whoa, this is really usable data. Also, spotting things which are questions, that's actually a note to basically be like, this is a basic question that should be online. Feedback surveys are a good thing to consider. You do want to get feedback from your organization, because people, despite what a lot of people assume, people don't automatically go out and start complaining all the time, but there could be one department that's very unhappy with another department, but they're not going to call them up and be like, hey, this is why I don't like you. Like, not many people really do that. But a lot of people have turned off feedback surveys because like, every time IT closes your ticket, you get another email, and it's like, happy face or sad face, and it's like, all right, happy face. Like, I'm sick of always getting surveys every time I do a ticket. You could randomize the surveys across departments. You could simply do monthly check-ins with people. I recently turned on the feedback survey just to kind of play with it, and if somebody complains about it, then I'll turn it off. Moving on from ticketing, so you got all your emails coming in, and it's beautiful. And now you're finding that you have a lot of these questions which could be serviced by, it's the same answer every time. Or you're telling me people aren't going to read that. I have to bend over backwards just to get people to email me. I'm not going to have people go online. The guaranteed way to not have anybody read your knowledge base is not to have one. Of course, people don't go online and get their own help. There's no way to do it. If you build it, it will come. If you're a Yankees fan, well, oh well. So how to start? What you want to do is track the questions that are coming in, which you're already going to be doing. So now you're able to tag those, and you're able to start building canned answers, which are little macros that automatically fill in, like, your 2-paragraph thing on how to plug in the projector or something like that. So you're already tracking those. You're able to easily figure out how to populate things online. Low risk, high impact. Super simple to take 5 minutes and write the article. It's going to have a huge impact on people. Also, look into other ways to do a self-service option. You could do a app store style button. You could do a article, of course, which is the easiest thing to do. You could do a customized form, great for things like onboarding. And a couple of ticket themes, because I'm not going to write an article about what to do if the our Wi-Fi is flaky. Fix the Wi-Fi. That's a real thing. But you may have questions that just, they're not reporting an incident, but it's something that's easy to explain online with a form. And even if they're not going to the knowledge base, even if they're still asking you how to do it, you're able to say, yep, but I already have this online. Click here, check it out. And of course, the last one, we'll be talking about expanding the service desk across your entire company, because there's a lot of departments who are having the same exact problems that you have, despite what you think IT is not the poor soul of the company. A good example that I enjoy, we actually have a genuine theme of these tickets because we lease. So laptops get changed out every 2 years, so people are always asking, oh, when am I getting a new laptop? So we have a button in SelfService. It runs a script that tries to, because you can't ping Apple for that data anymore, but it tries to guess what your date was that the laptop was made, and we add 2 years to that. Couple of extra tricks. Firstly is just do put time on your calendar early in the morning or in the not evening, like 7 o'clock. I don't want you writing when you're at home, but you know, if the afternoons are quieter, just put time on the calendar. And as much as people say that they always have to bounce around to different meetings, having that block on your calendar after a couple of days, you'll notice that it helps a lot. Start with canned responses. They're easier to do in your service desk than go over to the knowledge base, make a new page, figure out how I'm going to write the outline, figure out the screenshot. Just start first with the canned response, and then later on, as you have those canned responses, start building those into knowledge base articles. Something that I actually do a lot is I actually link directly to Apple articles. It's a good way to make sure that things don't get outdated in your knowledge base. I also like browsing schools on knowledge bases, colleges, universities. It's a lot of the same questions on like, how do I take a screenshot and stuff like that. And they've got good writing, screenshots, and it's also open to anybody who wants to read it. And also consider investing in additional software. There's an application called Screen Steps, which integrates with a Zendesk, and it sounds like you're spending, you know, $80 a month to write knowledge base articles, but it's really good at helping you write them really, really quickly, and that's the most important thing. ScreenFlow is a competitor to Camtasia that I just found out about. Both of them are really good at doing screencasts, so recording what's on screen with your audio, sometimes even your a webcam too, like a talking head thing. So I just saw that last night. Also, you do spend all your time in the service desk, so have your internal stuff in there too. It's really easy to lock that out to only certain people. And also look into other ways that you can turn things which are a ticket as like 5 follow-up questions and back and forth, and just turn that into a forum. Something like booking our cafe space. It's a large lunchroom. We have all sorts of AV stuff in there. People can't just book it like a conference room, because it's, so we have a forum asking them if they need a visitor Wi-Fi set up, if they need this, that, everything else. And then the last one there is just another example of ways that other departments in your company could also use a knowledge base or a ticketing system. So lastly, we're going to go on to dashboards and reports, which is my favorite, because that's when I get to put everything on a giant screen and say, check this out. This is what I do all day. And it also makes things easier for me to keep an eye on what's going on in the service desk. So you'll basically be doing 2 things with reports. Either be doing live stuff or doing stuff that's kind of like compiled once a week or once a month. The live stuff, this email alerts actually sounds funny because you're getting email alerts from your service desk, but you can set it up so that if you're not the tier 1, but you just help manage it, you get certain emails if there's certain tickets of a certain age, or it's kind of like extra alerts. I don't have a lot of those turned on just because my tickets are pretty manageable, but it's an option. Don't be afraid about our reports, because basically what it is you're meeting with your manager and giving them your I'm awesome volume. So like, don't be afraid of that. Get into their head. So one really good point about dashboards, I really like the blog at Gecko board, even though I don't actually use them. They have a really, really good blog. If you look online for monitoring or dashboards, you'll always find that blog post from somebody who's like, yeah, this option's great. It looks really colorful, and all my bosses are happy. And it's like, don't be so vain. Look for real items to put, real metrics to put on the dashboard to make it easier for you. The IPA rule, something should be important. The second item, potential improvement. If you have a metric that's on there, but you can't do anything about it, what's the point? And it's the same thing with authority, not having something in your face that you can't control, because then you're just staring at it and it's frustrating. Those aren't black and white rules. We would have a metric, how many days without an accident, or that was not the example that was supposed to be there, because that is something they're able to control. So that's a good metric to have on the dashboard. But yeah, you may have some, are there any events scheduled in the cafe this week? It's not something you control, but it's good to have, on the corner. I wouldn't keep all of these metrics on your dashboard, but if you go to Electronic and sign up for an account, in a couple of clicks, you're able to set up a dashboard that directly integrates to Zendesk, and you don't have to write your own API calls or anything like that. So very quickly, you have a dashboard that shows you the unsolved tickets, recently solved. I would change the stuff out on the right-hand side and have your SLA instead. But it's good to have a screen in the office because you do start working on scripts and packaging and all sorts of stuff. And you do have the browser tab open, but you're not always like staring at it all the time. And again, reports, those are the things that you're gonna run once a week or once a month and go over with your manager. Just ask them what's important for them and what are they most interested in. They don't want a printed summary of every single ticket, or they don't want a number that says you solved 80 tickets. Okay, that was great, but was that just 80 people to have their password reset? That's really easy. It's more important to have trends and critical tickets that came in, how quickly they were solved. And of course, don't be doing all this manually. Push on a service desk option that's able to do all of that for you. So now that you have an effective service desk with ticketing, knowledge base, and your dashboard, it's time to, every at your company has operations people who are pretty much the same line of work as you are. They're managing things that keep the company running, and they're managing a lot of different questions. A lot of them are last minute. And having one service, first of all, means only one knowledge base, only one place to sign in to get help from any group at the company, but it also means one application to manage, one bill, shared dashboards. And then some other stuff we'll talk about. We actually do have a pretty good amount of time left. A couple of good things that I would do is insist on a good mobile app. There's no reason in 2016 to have a service desk that you can't do things from on your phone. Be very careful about picking it in-house. It's not a black and white question. I'm not gonna say you have to go cloud, but if you do have some really good reasons to. You're already busy. You're coming here because you wanna set up a service desk. It's a really good idea to make it very easy for you to do that by using a cloud service. Also, the same idea of the knowledge base. People are interested in this information. Have a status page. If you have cloud services that you don't have total control over, but you do have to tell other departments if there's something that's not working, have a page for that. Folks nowadays are a lot more technical. I don't like to say than they used to be, but people are very understanding of how all of these things work. The same way that you have a status page that you check all your critical systems, your phones and everything, they go to a status page for Twitter and Facebook and Slack. So everybody knows what they are. A lot of status pages can automatically flag items as being down because they connect to those services. So we have a status page that has Google for Work, Salesforce, couple services that we use in sales, and also in Slack and Trello. Then there's also some manual ones that I can just flip for Wi-Fi, printing, AV, stuff like that. Try as much as you can to take the free time that you have now to write really good documentation. That can be on other talk here. I think there was one last year about having things documented. Makes it so that you don't have to do everything by yourself. Also consider tracking inventory as well. If you do have a lot of tickets coming in on laptops, somebody gets a ticket from an employee and it automatically shows them which laptop they have, how many tickets were opened on that laptop. Especially if you have a laptop that goes to a different person, it could be the first time that that person emails you about that laptop, so you can't look at their history, but you're able to look at the history of the laptop with the other person who had it. And there was issues every so often, especially the pros. I use an Arent. I don't know, I feel like I get more hardware problems with the pros, so, but that's just me. So finally, your to-do list, Mega Service Desk. Don't make it perfect because you won't. All you'll have is 2 or 6 weeks wasted and a service desk that isn't operational yet because everything has to be just perfect on it. Fill out the feedback survey in the middle. Do that for every talk you go to. Join us on Slack at macadmins.org. Ask me questions there. We actually have a channel, Fix Your Service Desk, which we talk about all of the service desk stuff. And also come back next year because we're probably going to do like a round 2. This is an intro talk as we had it flagged on the little guide there, but I did see in a lot of the feedback that I got during last night's survey is a lot of people are really focusing on that make it better part rather than make a new one. So, and we're all good for questions. We have about a half hour, so we can totally chat. Oh, and anybody want to go first? Apparently, I'm supposed to throw this, so I'm going to go this way only because I can't reach out. But I'll go that way behind you, and it should be on.
Okay.
Yes.
It sounds like it's on. So you mentioned the service desk categories earlier. Could you just repeat those one more time so I can grab them for my notes?
Yeah. Actually, it's probably better just to go to that slide because, nope, that was the wrong screen. Sorry. Yeah, so that you don't end up with one bucket called tickets I got. You have incidents and service requests. That's a concept in ITIL, which is the IT information library. It was this giant government thing that they did in the UK to kind of, service desk is only a part of ITIL. But I would look at ITIL and look at ITSM, which is kind of like the service-focused parts from ITIL, but it's sort of like a, how do I go about managing things and what are the concepts that we're using. But yeah, incidents, service requests, questions, and tasks. Questions is important. Again, sometimes it's not an incident or a service request, and sometimes it's something that's a perfect example to put later on into the knowledge base.
Do they have a flow chart that you can use to help differentiate? So when I'm trying to train.
Yeah. So the question was, how do you differentiate? The problem with it, and they'll say this in a lot of different training, is that there is no black and white rules on the incident and service requests. It is very much something that you have to apply to your environment. The big thing is that you do get a lot of tickets which sound like service requests, but it turns out what they're asking for was something they were supposed to get anyway. So that's an incident because that was a problem that was your fault basically. But I wouldn't even say an incident is something that's your fault. You might still flag a broken laptop or a stolen laptop as an incident because, yeah, so it all depends on your environment. I think the best thing for your environment would be to have examples to show them. Maybe find some examples that you changed the assumed category on. And then,
do you have a list of recommended service desk software?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you had the slide up there, but
yep.
You said you're moving to Zendesk, but I mean, are those highly recommended or?
Yeah, I didn't have too much time. I guess I did have a lot of time to talk about the slide, but I kind of bounced over it. So a couple of names on here, Zendesk and Fresh Service are, well, Zendesk is probably the most popular. And I was originally interested in one that was very well built for internal IT. What Zendesk did was they actually have a really great marketing page that shows you how to translate their features to the features you want, like incidents versus service requests. Oh, there's actually a way to just do that myself, like configure a button. SelfService is really good because you can get set up on it really, really fast. And they have a free version that I believe it still includes the SLA. The SLA was a very must-have feature for me, so we actually had to pay extra for it in Zendesk. Zendesk does the SLA at the pro level. SelfService, I believe, includes the SLA in all their versions, including the free one. SelfService tries to be a ITIL-compatible service desk, and what that means is that you're also doing inventory management, change management, problem management in your service desk as well. But yeah, you're able to get started with them really, really quickly. But I found that even tweaking all the little things I wanted to do, like the template, the email template that the person gets when they email me, I didn't want it to look like this ticket with all these fonts and logos and extra text and, don't type in this part of the email and all that stuff. I just wanted it to look like an email coming back for me. And it was really easy to do that with SelfService. Help Scout is really nice. They looked really nice, and I think I've heard a couple of people use them. I just never really went with them at the time. Web Help Desk is just one of the most popular ones. Jira Service Desk, I'm starting to come around with that last year, and I used to really dislike them because a couple years ago, their pricing for their service desk was based on how many people you had requesting help, which just makes no sense. Now they have pricing where it's based on the amount of people working the service desk. So if you are a Jira environment, I would definitely look at that. It also looks really good too. SA Manager is really popular, although there's some people on Slack who have very well spelled out commentary on some issues they've had with it. And yeah, a lot of them are also available in-house as well on the right-hand side. Web Help Desk and Jira. Request Tracker is just one that I always hear a lot. I think it's a lot of companies probably started using it 10 years ago and still using it. Spiceworks is really big if you're, I don't know, I haven't looked at Spiceworks in years because I used to look at them when I did like the small Windows-based IT, and now I just haven't really looked, so I'm not sure what they're up to nowadays. Cool, gonna bounce over to the wall. Can pass it if you want to. Heads up.
Hi. In your experience, do you have anything about sort of tracking hardware that's like in service?
Yeah, a lot of the add-ons or a lot of the inventory management features of the help desk will have that available for you. They'll have a feature where you're able to not only look at a piece of hardware in your inventory, but able to change its status from out for repair or waiting to be redeployed, things like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid. I end up with piles of laptops on my desk.
Right.
Become.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely consider inventory management that you can put into your service desk. SelfService does the inventory. Zendesk integrates with Umnitsa, who is, nobody's gonna disagree with this. They are the hardest company to talk to. I've had 3 sales conversations just disappear. But there's another one on the Zendesk marketplace. I'll have to post it in Slack, but it's another one finally to do asset management inside of Zendesk. No, something. Somebody in the front thought that they. Oh no! This is asset management, like tracking, like when someone's purchased. Monkey can do that too. Oh. Not monkeys, but a different one. MONKI. KEI. Okay, the full spelled out monkey, like you see it in the dictionary, is one that you can do on site or cloud.
Attaches to Zendesk.
Really? I'll have to check that one out. Monkey is another available for option available for Zendesk. What I really like about Zendesk is I've stopped trying to find the perfectly designed solution, and I just look for ones that have a really good API and a really good like ability to do add-ons. So Zendesk has a whole series of add-ons and apps. A lot of them are paid, but it really expands or it integrates a Zendesk with other things that you use. So.
One follow up, and then I'll pass this to everyone.
Sure.
Have these things you found integratable with barcode scanners?
Yeah, so a lot of barcode scanners are just a USB input. So as long as there's a place for them to type, you just scan it. What a lot of them do, again, going back to one of the things I said to do, is make sure it has a really good mobile app. SelfService has a barcode scanner built into their iPhone app, which is really cool.
Cool.
Anybody else for questions? Actually, right next to you. Easy throw.
Test. So the user-facing knowledge base.
Yeah.
We have one, but it's so much easier for them to just email us and ask us to give them the question. Do you have any recommendations on how to encourage them to look it up themselves?
Absolutely. I would ask people in the right way why they're not going to the service desk. And don't say it like, why didn't you go, not service desk, knowledge base. Don't say, why didn't you go to the knowledge base for that? But be like, hey, we'd really like to get some feedback. We have a knowledge base that has a lot of different answers for you. Do you go to it a lot, even though you know that they're going to say no? But do you go to the knowledge base a lot? They say no. You ask why. You find out why, and you change it, and you improve it. Lots of service desks knowledge bases don't always look that well. And that's the biggest thing that's going to keep people from using it, is something that's hard to search or something that's just hard to read, which makes the writing part of the knowledge base so challenging because it has to be really well laid out. But yeah, keep that in mind when you're looking for a knowledge base, one that's really expandable. SelfService was pretty. Yeah, that was one of the other things I wasn't crazy about. SelfService has a couple of design options. There's Zendesk. Again, not to turn it into a huge conversation about Zendesk, but you always talk about vendors that you do like rather than ones that you don't. And Zendesk has huge designs. The knowledge base website for Slack actually runs off of a Zendesk, and you just have a giant search bar when you first go to it. It's cool. You want up here? I'll be back up. There we go.
So there was, for my company, we're a managed services provider, and we did the web help desk, but historically we had a lot of our content inside of FileMaker for billing customers, and we decided it's very tough to integrate with FileMaker, so we're gonna just build out FileMaker, make it web accessible, and we're kind of building our own help desk out of there. And I'm thinking we provide services to different companies, so it's not like, hey, we're just doing a service desk for our own company per se, but there's a bunch of other customers, and the billing is like, oh, right, well, we manage some devices through Casper, and so we have computers that we manage, but we also have users who we interact with. And when it comes to tracking, you can see how, it just occurred to me, it's like, hey, you know what, having a history of computers, what's happened with computers in history is important. How do you find that if a company can, an employee can leave, another employee can take their spot, maybe the computer gets reassigned, the old computer and stuff, like how do you keep that same sort of like history all tied together or stuff? Is that just part of like the features that are available to Zendesk, and it just knows, hey, we're tracking all your ticket history, user, but your computer comes with its own history.
Exactly.
Per se.
Yeah, and that's going to come from the asset management side of the knowledge base. Hopefully, you're going to have an asset in there just like you would have a user, and you get to see all the tickets related to that asset. It's really good to consider an asset management system that integrates with your service desk so that you can have tickets history for those devices. You may have asset management that just does what you think you should be doing, which is knowing which barcode is on the device. But it's really good to have that integration, or have a service desk which includes the asset management, because the history is huge. I know people that just redeploy like crazy. So like you can totally imagine that there's just a history there that you want to tap into. It's funny, and I'm not perfect, so I have the same problem sometimes, but it's funny how much we don't use data, even though we're very technical. So yeah, doing stuff metrics-based is where you're going to have a great overlapping interest with your managers higher up, and you'll be speaking their language by learning their language rather than the other way around.
Another question I had.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting, getting your service desk going and or moving towards improvement, I can understand it's easier to make decisions off of reports to, see what reality is, or looking yourself in the mirror, essentially.
Yeah.
What are the biggest factors that you think are most important to measure when it comes to reporting?
That's a great question. Other than looking at how fast you're responding to tickets, look at what themes of tickets you have coming in, and look at what department those tickets are coming in to find out, is there stuff that they're doing in that department that's not causing issues but just causing tickets, or is sometimes it's something where that physical department is related to the types of tickets that they're submitting. So yeah, other than time, I would definitely start looking at types of tickets, incident versus a service request. And in your own environment, develop tags that are only going to make sense to you, so that you can tag your ticket with Salesforce or tag your ticket with any of the different things that you use. It's hard to come up sometimes with different examples, but cool. So yeah. Sure.
All right, so interested how you tackled this. You mentioned expanding the help desk out to other departments.
Yeah.
So when those requests come in, is it just one big feed that someone is triaging and assigning, or do you have different channels for different departments that doesn't auto assign for the relevant agent?
It would be really awesome if you had somebody that was able to triage all of those tickets, and that sounds like a crazy job, but that would actually be really cool, because then it's just one place, period, that not one physical service desk, but one physical email address or form that they're using to contact. There's, if you have the resources to do that. Otherwise, you can have multiple email addresses feed into your service desk, and based on the email that they use, it automatically does things. There's lots of triggers and automation that, just look at a lot of the marketing material from these companies. There's all sorts of like automatic things that you're able to do. I know some people aren't always able to do that, but we have this overlap in my company between the IT operations and the sales operations. So there's a lot of Salesforce-esque stuff that I do, and I literally had somebody who was like, is that IT or sales ops? Who am I going to email? And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm shutting that down. We're not having IT help and sales ops help because people don't know who to email. And a lot of, so it is good for departments to be able to share tickets, but you don't want somebody stopping from asking their question because they're not sure who to ask. But so yeah, if you can, it's really, really cool just to be like help at company name. But if not, you are also able to do that with different email addresses. But awesome question, I like that. Anybody else for questions?
One more here.
Yeah.
How do you have your team work on tickets? Do you like limit how many tickets a technician can work on, or whoever's running your help desk can work at the same time? Like, because I know multitasking just doesn't always work, and things can get lost. And closing out is when tickets can end up in limbo. So how do you kind of whip your team like into like best performance?
That's a really good question. I don't have a lot of people in my environment, so we just help each other out, but it's really important not to silo. And not only are we trying to combine development and operations departments, I know companies where tier 1 is siloed from tier 2. That's like, and it's all, tier 1 is a butt of jokes, and that's really bad. Like, just sometimes you might just want to put everybody in the same physical room, or maybe adopt something like Slack so people are at least talking with each other about things. And when people start to know each other, it becomes less of like, oh, that dumb department. You start to realize things from their point of view. But yeah, I think it should just be good communication. A lot of times, you might consider doing a daily stand-up, which having another meeting to go to sounds really annoying, but at the stand-up meetings, you literally stand up, and the meeting's about 5 minutes long, and it's just very quickly, what are you working on today? Is there anything that's stopping you from working? Now is a good time to ask, and just, I think having the dashboard would help as well, because it's all about having visibility. So yeah, if you have a couple different people in your department, I would stick a dashboard there, you know. Cool. One in the back.
Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
So I had a question. You, I think, mentioned in a slide that you were integrating your help desk with Slack.
Yeah.
What type of information or what events are you populating Slack with from your help desk?
So there's two things with Slack that's really cool. There's a lot of integrations that just put stuff into Slack. It's like, all right, that's helpful, but I want to take it further than that. I don't have an example wasn't able to include it in the example, but it would be so cool if somebody could just make a ticket in Slack, because people don't want to go over to email to make a ticket. Or even do like a basic interactive chat bot for IT support. There's a company who lets you build your own bots. I'm kind of playing around with it. Yeah, other than what I'm trying to do with Slack, it's really good to have a separate channel, separate from your department's channel or chat room, that's just a feed of tickets. And a ticket comes in and it lets you quickly chat and just look at the tickets that are coming in, or small conversation in the channel. The ticket comes in, I got it, or the manager, I thought that happened last week and we took care of it, stuff like that. And yeah, the Slack integrations, everybody's going crazy with it right now, so it's really easy to do. And it's hard because it's almost the same as using the mobile app. You have to be very trusting that it keeps on working, because what you want to do is turn off the email alerts, but the other notification system has to work really well, because you don't want to be sitting there and be like, oh, there's 10 tickets and Slack and the mobile app aren't working. So.
One more quick one.
Sure.
And what questions are you asking in your feedback survey?
It's just a happy face or a sad face. How is the service? A great way not to get feedback is to have like 10 questions, like how fast was the person at responding to you? How knowledgeable were they at what you were asking? It's like they're just gonna give up halfway through, and they don't have time for that. So yeah, just a happy face or a sad face in the email. If you do want to do monthly surveys, I would borrow something that we use a lot in, especially software as a service companies. We use this with our customers. And if you get one, now you know what it is. It's called a net promoter score. And it's simply a number between 0 and 100 that shows how passionate your customers are about you. So the idea is that you simply ask your customer, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? And it's 0 through 10. And the only scores that you want are a 9 or a 10. Between 5 and 8, that's passive, and between 0 and 4 is not negative. It's, yes, a detractor. It's somebody who's actually going to go and talk to their friends about why they shouldn't sign up with you. So it's a very similar idea. You could probably translate over to monthly surveys or something like that. And just 1 through 10, how do you like us? And again, the idea is to get a 9 or a 10 period. And those people who do rate 9 and 10s, maybe they could help you develop stuff like the knowledge base to make it easier for your employees to use, or they can kind of help other departments, because the department will be hearing it from another department. They won't be hearing it from IT, so the perspective there is different.
Right, they become your champions.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I think there was one, yeah, behind you there.
Two things. One, Spiceworks has grown a lot in the last few years. They've gotten extremely extensible, so if you're comfortable with coding and scripting, then you'd probably benefit very highly from the Spiceworks implementation. Sweet. They've also, just in the last year, added a hosted web desk.
Oh, that's wicked cool.
So you can take it off of your network and make it live on the web. And then regarding Slack and help desk integration, one of the tools that I've found recently is IFTTT, if this then that.
Yep.
And they can take if you've got an email in the channel, they could take a message in the channel, your Slack channel.
Yeah.
If you've got your email integration turned on.
Yeah. So we probably did have more time than I thought, so we should have gone over more integrations. But yeah, if this, then that in a Zapier, which is kind of acts like a business version of if this, then that. They're both macro-based things that they can take some two totally unrelated pieces of data and connect them. If this, then that says like, if the weather's gonna be rainy, email me to bring the umbrella. That's like the really basic example. But yeah, those services are good. It is good not to, I don't want to say they're bad, but it's a lot better not to bring a third person into the mix if you don't need them. But yeah, definitely, it's a good way to integrate things together and do stuff that you couldn't normally do just with the services by themselves. Cool. Anybody else? Another one right behind you. Easy throw. It's supposed to be like across the room. And
I'm kind of curious. This is sort of maybe a question for the whole group.
Yeah.
But there's different structures. So sometimes people will structure where they have people that are dedicated to the service desk and then people that are dedicated to desktop support, or a hybrid where the desktop support is the service desk as far as answering phones and ticketing and stuff like that. So I'm kind of just curious what most organizations are structured like, or what the majority are doing now.
Yeah, so a good question for the room. How many, I guess the first question would be, how many tiers of your help desk do you think you have? And I'm not even gonna define whether it's a separate team or not, but how many tiers do you think one team at your company has, like your primary support? If it's 3, raise your hand. Cool. So is tier 3, so for the video, that was a good amount of hands, probably about 12 or 14. Those of you who had your hand up, is tier 3 working tickets on a regular basis, or is a ticket one of those great, now I have to stop and go look at a ticket? If it was the good, raise your hand. And if it's the bad, raise your hand. If it's the I have to stop and go work on a ticket, okay. And I have a question there.
Well, no, but that's kind of how we're designed. That tier 3 is the last resort. So they're the specialists that are doing project work, but they're also the architects. So if it gets to that level, one of them's on call, two of them are on call.
Yeah, so the comment was that tier 3 is sort of supposed to be designed that way. That they're the people working on projects, they're the people architecting things. It should be a last resort to bring them in. My only thought is should be a last resort to bring them in. Sometimes you have, can't think of the right word, hesitation to get involved when the tier 3 ticket comes in. So that was the only point, because unfortunately what happens is that's when you start getting people siloed. I don't expect you to work on like tier 1 and tier 2 questions, but when a ticket is granted tier 3 access, tier 3 status, you should jump on it and work it. Cool. So people have, by show of hands, how many people have a service desk that has multiple tiers, and you have a desks that have multiple tiers, like a Mac desk? Okay, a couple of hands. Cool. Yeah, that comes up a lot, and sometimes you wonder if there's a trigger in Zendesk that if the word contains Mac, it just automatically bounces over there because it's a Mac. Shoot, I can't do anything on it. Oh, you want your email password reset, but you're on a Mac, so I don't know how that works.
Do it as a prompt.
Do it.
Do it as a who it's from.
Yeah, right. Tagging tickets off of who it's from, especially if they do have a Mac. And we have a question in the back. I'm not sure where the mic ended up. Go along. He really wants to take it. Oh! Okay. I bet he plays for the Jets.
Yeah. Question is, how do you differentiate a ticket between a project?
How do I differentiate like an incident and a service request versus a project, or how do I track projects?
I mean, like on my organization, everything comes through as a ticket, and then we have to differentiate what, say a ticket is something that's only going to take a couple hours, but some things we have some big projects that require development and network infrastructure upgrades. And
that's a really good question, because the big trend is make everything a ticket. But if you have a ticket that's like, I'll replace Wi-Fi, that's not really manageable. You can't have a ticket that says replace Wi-Fi because you're tearing all your Wi-Fi out. What you should have is some sort of product management software if you can. Maybe, like something outside of the ticket, but then at various points of the projects, you're creating tickets for smaller tasks. Like if you are upgrading all of the Wi-Fi, create a ticket for the planned maintenance when you're gonna turn off a certain office wing and bring it back on, or maybe you'll have task tickets for certain parts of the project when you physically go and do that part, which that kind of brings in, like, you should have that sort of level of understanding of the project that you're doing that you can break it into individual parts. A lot of people apply Trello for project management, but they do that. They just make one card for something. Or like one card should be one to-do item, or it should be one small batch of to-do items. If your card, you need to have checklists, and you need to have a summary of the work being done. One really good way to use ticketing is when you do change management, when you agree to change a configuration on a switch. Have a ticket in the system so that your service desk can see what's changed in the past day or what's being done later on today. And then also have a ticket that has all your chat or notes from while you were doing that work. A lot of times in Slack, I'll just talk to myself in my IT chat room, like primary router, starting firmware upgrade on primary router. Then I see that it switched over to the second one. Failed over safely. Okay, now we go back to the primary. Now the second one is updating itself, and now we just have a nice chat summary of everything that was going on. So, and then we have a question over on the side there.
It's actually sort of a response, and at the risk of rustling the graybeards, that concept of change management versus closing an incident is handled pretty well in what's called ITIL.
Yeah.
You can love it or you can hate it.
Yeah.
But it is a structure that's out there that gives structure to these concepts we're talking about, and I think it's worth at least having cursory awareness of it. So
yeah, definitely.
Is it just a break-fix thing, or are you looking for a change? And if you're looking for a change, they have a process to go through a peer review.
Yeah.
Then exactly what you're saying, just like note the change and note the backup plan, have all that ready and posted for anybody that needs to see before you get into the change. So
yeah,
you can use the good parts of it, and some help desk systems actually are now claiming to be ITIL compliant.
Yeah, ITIL is really worth learning about. I still have more to learn about it. It would be outside of the scope of just the service desk conversation, but it's definitely worth bringing up. It's 4 letters, ITIL, and it was this big like how to manage framework that they designed. Somebody else can describe it better than I can.
But it's pertinent for me because one of my gripes about it is they don't really ever call anything a project.
Yeah.
It's either an incident or some change that you're going to cause,
but that's hard because you go above that. Where does that change come from? It's part of exactly. At that point you're hiring product managers. People who do whatever that project management certification is. It's something really easy, so I should know it. But PSP, there we go. Project. PMP, Product Management Professional. Yeah. Yes.
So a question that occurred to me is, I know your service level agreement is kind of important in how quickly you can close up tickets. What do you do when you hit like a wall? So I give you an example. Something's broken and you're waiting for a vendor to give you a hot fix, and it could be months or what. Like something's kind of totally come to a stop and it's out of your control.
Yeah. That's actually a really good question. Usually on my end, it's a service being out and I'm waiting for it to come back up, so it's going to come back up in like a half hour. But what happens when it's something like a hot fix that you need to wait a little while for? I would find a mutual agreeable resolution between you and the person that opened up the ticket, which would probably be Here's the workaround. I contacted the vendor. We have a hotfix coming in a little while. I'm going to let you know as soon as that hotfix is applied in our environment. That's the best that we can do right now, though. And you may leave that ticket in that waiting state, and it sits there for 6 weeks. Like, I have vendors who do that with me. They come back around and discuss an old ticket because they have a bug fix or something for it. But yeah, a mutual agreed resolution between you and the person.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks. And anybody else for questions? Actually, this has been great though for questions. We're running on about 5 minutes, so. Everybody else good? Everybody excited for Monday? Get back to work and solve tickets and cool. And don't forget the feedback survey. All the talks you've been going to have the feedback surveys. Oh, sorry, the laptop checker is on my GitHub. Slides and that script are on my GitHub there, so thank you.